Hello everyone, my name is Vadim, I'm a game designer at Pixonic, and right now I'm working on a project War Robots. So today I would like to tell you about our matchmaking system, how we firstly introduced it into our game, and how we improve it over time. So first let's take a quick look at what is War Robots. Basically our game is an online multiplayer shooter where players play in a team of 6 players and they take a role of a giant mech and try to destroy other players' mechs. So basically, in one game, you can have up to 5 different mechs. And in the metagame, you try to unlock more stuff, so you can customize your robots and upgrade them. So as you can see, because we have 6 players in 2 teams, we need some kind of matchmaking in order to put them all together. So basically, in order to talk about matchmaking, it is better to divide it into 2 different parts. At first, we try to determine the matchmaking power for the player. And then, when the player is ready to go straight into the game, we try to create a game room for those players. At first, when we just started developing our game, we had a simple system that just took the first 12 players and put them straight into the match. So the only thing that we did was that we tried to look for players with higher waiting time in order to put them earlier. But we had to improve the system and add more rules. Because our players can have different types of hangers and different types of skill power, we created a basic gate system that tries to match players within the gates. But because we have to prioritize players with higher waiting time, we increase the gate width if the player isn't matched at the moment. So, of course, after that, we added a squad system. Squad system basically allows players to play together, invite friends, and we should basically just match those players without solo players, because it will be unfair. If players play in a squad, they have more understanding of what their teammates are doing, and they basically most likely will win. So let's take an example. If we have 6 players that are playing in a squad, at first, we will try to put them in a game with another 6-player squad. But if the waiting time is big enough, we will try to find a squad of 5 players and solo player, or 2 squads of 3 players, and so on. So in the end, there may be a situation where a team of 6 players play against 6 solo players, but it is only when the matchmaking isn't big enough to find another squad. So the last thing that we had to address is the disconnection problem. Basically, if some player will disconnect from the game, we have still 11 players in the room who have to play and basically enjoy our game. In order to do that, we need to find some kind of replacement. But it is important that we should do that only at the beginning of the match, because nobody will like to get into the game on the last minute and be put into the losing team. So in the end, we set these 6 main rules of creating a game. Now let's talk a little bit about our first matchmaking system. The main goal was, in order to release the first MVP, to do something fast. And because we already had a concept of hanger power, we decided to use it into our game room creation process. So we determined your hanger power, and based on that, we'll put you into the game. Let's take an example. This robot has up to 4 different weapons. So if we evaluate them all and add them up, we will have something around 900 hanger power. But as I already said, you can have up to 5 different mechs. So we need to somehow calculate your hanger power in total. And there is 3 basic ways. You can just, once again, add this whole thing together. You can only look at the strongest robot, or you can count an average. The average will be the worst thing for us, because without any more variables, we don't know anything about how many robots do you have. The sum is bad for us too, because if you play your game, basically you can only play at the one moment of time with your one robot. So if you're playing with the strongest robot, you will just destroy everything. if it is much stronger than everybody in the room. And throughout our time, you will be losing to other players in 1-versus-1 battle. So with that, we decided to look only at the strongest robot in the hangar. And for the squads, we do the same for all players in the squad. So the main results was that basically we released our first MVP, we gathered our available data, and we improved our game room creation process so that we can use it with other systems as well. But we had some issues, and the main one was that this system really promotes stagnation. There is no reason for you to improve your hangar. You can just buy your first 5 robots, play the game, and over time you will get better at the game and you will increase your win rate. So what's the point for you to upgrade anything? Because if you do that, you will be facing more skillful opponents. And there were some corner cases that can be abused, especially by our high-skill players. The main problem was that they can do that even on accident. So they don't know the rules, but they just took their first robots, and they will be placed against our new players who are just trying to get into the game. And that is obviously a bad thing, because those new players will be destroyed by others and just don't know what to do with that. So we decided to move away from the hangar power system, and our main goal of the second system was basically just to resolve the main issues of the previous system. And the main thing was, of course, to motivate players to progress, to improve their skill as well as their hangar. So with that, we changed our approach, and we decided to look at the player skill level rather than their hangar power. But once again, because we already have our rules for game room creation process, we only changed our approach to the matchmaking power. Basically, player rating tries to determine your skill based on your previous performance. So if you win a lot of matches, your rating will increase, and if you lose a lot, it will decrease over time. And with that, we added seasons into our game, which is basically a long-term goal for high competitive players who will get back into the game and try to achieve top ranks. And with that, you can improve your hangar, and you can move forward with that, or you can improve your personal skill. So the results of this system was that basically we protected our new players from the top ones, and when we released our user interface for the leagues, we managed to increase our average revenue by 20%. And as a result of our work with new players, we slightly increased our retention for the first and the third day. Of course, as with everything else, we had some issues as well. And here the main one was that our players really didn't like when we changed our system, because, well, basically they just got used to it, and we get a lot of negative feedback, and I mean really a lot. So over time, those players got used to the system, because in the end they understood that it is better for the game. But we had to do something with their feedback at the time. Of course, more than that, we had to close the gaps of this new system, because it still can be abused, but it is no longer possible to do it by accident, so you will have to understand the system and do whatever you like in order to get the results that you want. So in the end, let's compare these two systems. Basically, the first one is better for experienced players, because the better you are, the higher your win rate. It doesn't matter which robots do you use. The new system is better for novice players, so that we can increase our player base, because those players will play with each other, and they can stick there for as long as they want. And where the old system, without any additions, stimulates stagnation, the new one tries to promote your growth. But of course, both the system can be abused, so without any additional features, players can abuse this system, and it is very important to improve those as well. Of course, there are many more different types of creation system for matchmaking, and this is basically our experience. So the next thing that I would like to tell you about is supporting features. Basically, these features try to achieve the same goals as the matchmaking, but but try to do that in a small improvements way. So the rating table basically is a motivation for high competitive players. If you have at least one rating than somebody else, it means that you will be higher in the rating. So for those players, it will be important to go back into the game and try to achieve top ranks each season. The next big thing that we did with our matchmaking, we added a rating freeze feature. Basically, players can abuse our matchmaking system by trying to drop in the rating in a small periods of time. So they keep losing game after game, and they basically get easier matches. So with that, we look into our players, and we saw that those players will try to lose like 100 matches in a row. And of course, if it happens, it means that something is wrong. So in that case, we try to freeze down your rating and prevent you from big drops. Of course, you can lose like 10 battles. It's of course can happen, but if you lose a lot of games in a row, you will slowly lose less rating than on average. And with that, we protect our new players even better, so that it is no longer an effective way to abuse this system. At first, when our game was just launched, we had the same reward system for the whole player base, which is obviously not right. Because if you add a reward system that tries to motivate players to go higher, players will start playing more in order to get to the top ranks and to get more rewards. So when we released our system that tries to award players for getting into higher leagues, we increased our average battles per day per player, which is basically our metric for engagement. And the last thing that I would like to tell you about is A/B testing. As you all know, A/B testing is a very important tool in order to improve your game in small steps. But it is rather hard to do with the matchmaking, because you will have to split your audience into different parts so that they will play only within their group. But we decided to try something out and look for the first matches. When our player just enters the game, he or she will most likely will be playing with bot matches. Will have the bot matches, and the number was the same throughout the whole player base. They all played free battles. But we try to look if we see some kind of connection that our players need more games in order to improve themselves. So we try to test if our players will achieve a certain amount of matchmaking rating, we will put them into the matches with players. But if they don't, they will still playing with bots. And the result was pretty interesting, because the best result throughout the whole groups of this A/B testing was in the group with the highest possible battles that you need in order to play with normal players. So with that, we knew that our players have their own learning speed, and we need to approach it for each player not on the same level as for everybody else. All right, so that's the end of my speech part. If you have any questions, please raise your hand.
All right, guys, so I will say the first one and then come to